Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to take a deep look at what exactly death is in Final Destination. In the vast and chilling universe of contemporary horror cinema, few sagas have managed to instill such a pure and primal sense of vulnerability as Final Destination has. There is no masked killer lurking in the shadows here, nor are there supernatural creatures emerging from the twisted corners of the imagination. Instead, the true antagonist is something far more abstract, terrifyingly silent, and absolutely inevitable. Death in its purest form, faceless, bodiless, voiceless. A force that doesn't need to speak, move, or show itself, because it is simply always there, waiting. From its first appearance on screen, this invisible force establishes itself not only as the cause of a series of shocking deaths, but as the embodiment of a cosmic order that allows no mistakes. A natural balance that, once disturbed, corrects itself with mechanical precision. In Final Destination, it's not about surviving a killer. It's about attempting to escape the inescapable. Death becomes an omnipresent intelligence, acting without emotion, without cruelty, but with unwavering intent. What's most disturbing about this entity is that it doesn't require a physical presence to manifest. A gust of wind that shouldn't be there, a malicious reflection in a window, an object sliding on its own, or the sudden creak of wood for no apparent reason. These tiny signs are loaded with meaning. They are its warnings, or perhaps its taunts. Because in this macabre game, even premonitions are part of the plan. They offer not hope, but distraction. A flicker of light that only leads into deeper darkness. This video will plunge headfirst into that darkness. We'll explore not only the main films, but also the hidden branches of the extended universe. Comics, novels, deleted scenes, and theories that help shape a mythology far more complex than it appears on the surface. Special attention will be given to Final Destination, Bloodlines, the franchise's most recent addition, which not only revitalizes the concept, but expands it into even more philosophical and disturbing territory. There, death no longer seems like just a force of correction, but more like a universal consciousness, a cosmic intelligence carrying out its purpose with cold, inescapable logic. Throughout every installment, one constant remains: no one truly escapes. Those who think they've cheated death have merely bought time. A brief interval before the gears begin to turn once more, because in the world of Final Destination, chance does not exist. Everything is calculated. The order in which the characters die is not random. It follows a predetermined pattern, a sequence revealed in the initial vision. If someone breaks that cycle, the system resets and begins again. And like a finely tuned symphony, every dissonant note will be corrected until the melody is complete. The franchise turns the mundane into menace. A gymnastics class, a plane ride, a spa session, or even a trip to the dentist. Everything can become deadly under the invisible gaze of this entity. What sets Final Destination apart is precisely its ability to take the ordinary and turn it into an unbearable act of tension. Each death scene is a puzzle being assembled before our eyes, a lethal dance that unfolds with surgical precision. And when the moment comes, there is no escape. The viewer, just like the characters, becomes trapped in an invisible countdown. Even the characters who seem to understand the rules of the game, like Clear Rivers, one of the few survivors who becomes almost a mythic figure within the saga, eventually fall. Her death isn't just a narrative blow. It's a brutal reminder. Death does not forget. And above all, it does not forgive interference. When someone dares to challenge it, the response is immediate. More violent, more creative. Not because it enjoys pain, but because every disruption generates new variables. And those variables, like dominoes, must fall. The sound and visual design of the saga also play a crucial role in crafting this atmosphere. You don't need to see death to feel it. Its presence is suggested in almost imperceptible details. A mirror reflecting what shouldn't be there, a shadow gliding past a doorway, a light bulb flickering for no reason. There are near-subliminal moments where the most observant viewers can spot dark figures or hidden elements just seconds before a fatal event. As if the universe itself, a silent accomplice, were giving us a hint of what's to come. One of the most memorable examples appears in the first film, when a kettle at full boil briefly reveals a dark figure on its surface just before tragedy strikes. Or the famous phantom bus, fleetingly reflected in a glass window that never truly arrives but foreshadows death. These are masterfully crafted details that enrich the experience without needing dialogue or explanation. And while death never fully reveals itself, the extended universe has toyed with the idea of giving it a form. In the graphic novel Final Destination, Looks Could Kill, for instance, it is portrayed as an elderly African-American man, elegantly dressed in a gray suit and carrying a cane with a skull-shaped handle, not as an enemy, but as a symbolic, almost philosophical embodiment of that eternal force that governs fate. This figure also appears in dreams, in visions that feel less like warnings and more like involuntary revelations of a truth too vast to grasp. So what exactly is death in Final Destination? A physical phenomenon? A conscious entity? A universal code? Maybe it's all of these at once. What's certain is that its presence forces the characters, and by extension, us as viewers, to confront the most terrifying idea of all, the complete lack of control. It doesn't matter how fast we run, how well we understand the rules, or how hard we try to protect the people we love. The outcome will always be the same. Because here, destiny is not a possibility, it's a sentence. In the darkest and most hidden core of the novel Final Destination, Dead Reckoning, a truth is revealed. One so disturbing that it not only shakes the narrative foundations of the entire franchise, but also completely redefines our understanding of the entity at its center. This revelation does not come through a direct confrontation or an ancient ritual. It arrives in the form of a dream shared by Jessica and Marcy, which, far from being a mere nightmare, becomes a fracture in the very fabric of reality. Through that crack, both women glimpse something beyond human comprehension, a glimpse into the true essence of death. But what they witness resembles no god, demon, or specter from legend. It has no face, no eyes, no recognizable form. It is neither beautiful nor grotesque in any traditional sense. It is inconceivable, an organic chaos of monstrous proportions, as if matter itself had revolted against its own structure. A colossal swarm of rotting flesh, human limbs emerging illogically from animal torsos, gaping jaws in places where mouths should never be. This impossible creature is made up of fragments of living beings that should never have met. Humans, dogs, birds, reptiles, and even life forms that defy any known classification. All of it amalgamated into a pulsating, writhing entity, as if the universe itself were trying to vomit its presence. The horror of this vision lies not only in its physical appearance, it is in its indifference. It does not hate. It does not feel. It simply is. A cosmic scale being, as vast as it is uncaring, operating by principles beyond language or logic. In this revelation, death does not appear as a malevolent figure, but as a universal constant. A force that does not judge or punish, it simply restores balance. This brand of cosmic horror expands even further in Final Destination. Spring Break, the comic that explores another facet of the entity. There, it manifests differently. A black cloud, thick as tar, charged with a static electricity that seems to vibrate with hatred. At its center, a floating face with blurred features, faintly horned, as if pulled directly from the shared nightmare of all humanity. But even this form is not definitive. It appears only because the human eye needs to see something. Because our senses cannot process its true nature, death projects itself as a symbol, an image that barely grazes the comprehensible. What the saga subtly suggests, in its films as well as its literary and graphic extensions, is that this entity operates under a pre-established design. It is not an arbitrary killer. It is not chaos incarnate. It is a universal correction system that activates whenever the natural course of events is disrupted. There is an order, a cold, mathematical logic, an invisible structure known as the design of death. This design dictates who must die at what moment and in what sequence. If someone escapes death, they are not saved, they are merely displaced. The entity will move on to the next on the list, but it will always return. And if someone interferes too much, if they try to change the order, if they save others or sacrifice themselves, what awaits them is not redemption, but a more brutal death, because the error must be corrected at any cost. Perhaps the most macabre part of all is that the system allows for exceptions. There is a sinister clause. If someone kills another person at the precise moment, they may absorb the victim's remaining time, not as a reward, but as a transaction, an extension of life paid in blood. But this gift carries an invisible weight, a cosmic debt. The soul of the one who receives it no longer fully belongs to them. And there are even crueler rules. In some cases, even suicide is blocked, literally. There are characters who try to end their lives before death can reach them. But something, an invisible force, prevents it. A weapon misfires. A jump doesn't end in impact. A rope breaks. Death does not allow it, because it is not yet time. She decides when, neither before nor after. Those who try to hide, like clear rivers, uncover another equally devastating truth. You can isolate yourself from the world. You can lock yourself in a padded cell. You can eliminate all risk. But you cannot escape the weight, and that weight becomes torture. A life suspended in fear, where every breath feels like a challenge to fate. A life not truly lived, trapped in limbo between the inevitable and the delayed. But even this design can be reconfigured. Final Destination 2 introduces a terrifying change. Due to the intervention of the survivors of Flight 180, the order is reversed. The list is altered, not because death failed, but because it adapted, because it evolves. And that ability to adjust is perhaps the most chilling aspect of all. We are not dealing with a static force, but with a superior intelligence. One that learns, that modifies its patterns to guarantee balance, and that punishes each new attempt at evasion with greater severity. The novel Looks Could Kill pushes this logic even further. It introduces the concept of human enforcers, individuals who have made a pact with the entity to become its hands. In exchange for a prolonged existence, they eliminate those who disrupted the flow of destiny. But this privilege comes with one condition: absolute obedience. Anyone who breaks the pact is destroyed without mercy. There are no second chances. For a long time, it was believed that creating new life, having a child, could disrupt the design. That by bringing something new into existence, the cycle could be broken. But that illusion crumbles in Final Destination, Bloodlines. There, it's revealed that the only true way to escape the design is to die, literally, and then come back. Only those who have fully crossed to the other side and returned, resuscitated, can exist outside the original plan. We see this with Kimberly Corman, who is clinically dead and brought back. From that moment on, she is no longer the same. She is no longer the marked one. Her soul has been rebaptized by death. But that rebirth must be absolute. It's not enough to simply brush the edge. Stephanie Reyes in Bloodlines survives a drowning, but her heart never fully stopped. That's why she remains marked. She is still an anomaly, an error that must be erased. One of the darkest twists in Bloodlines takes us back to 1960, when Iris Campbell has a premonition and saves dozens of people from a catastrophe at the Skyview Tower. That seemingly heroic act triggers an unimaginable domino effect. The lives that were supposed to end that day continue. They have children. Those children have children. And so, a web of existence forms, one that was never meant to be. An entire generation that is, at its core, an accident. And death, as a corrective mechanism, must wipe it out completely. This is where William Bloodworth, masterfully portrayed by Tony Todd, takes on a mythical dimension. He's not just a guide, he's a survivor, a witness who has seen it all. He himself was saved by Iris in 1968, and he knows his existence is out of place. That's why he doesn't run. That's why he doesn't interfere. He simply observes, because he understands that death doesn't act out of hatred, it acts out of necessity. As he says, in his deep, ritualistic voice, it's not vengeance, it's restoration. Every soul out of place is a crack in the order, and the universe does not tolerate cracks. That line reshapes the entire story. It forces us to view the protagonists not as victims, but as living errors, children of chaos, echoes of an interruption. Their fate is not tragic, it is logical. Inevitable, relentless, and if death cannot reach you through an accident, it will reach you through time. In Bloodlines, both Iris and Bloodworth are diagnosed with cancer, a death that arrives slowly, that eats away from within. Because when the force that governs the universe decides to eliminate you, it doesn't need an explosion or a fall. One mutated cell is enough, and time will do the rest.